So before we talk more about specific supplements, can you explain to my audience, like, when they might benefit from adding an enzyme? Like, what are symptoms that they would be having when they're, without doing any testing or actual diagnosis and things like that? Well, what are just symptoms they might have where they could benefit from experimenting? And I like to talk about, sometimes there's always people are looking for like an answer. Like, how do I know I need X, Y, and Z? And I'm kind of the belief of like, well, if you're open to experimenting with your body, sometimes just doing that can be helpful. So
yep. Well, there's the ABCs of digestive dilemmas, right? So acid reflux and GERD, if you got that, it's probably a hydrochloric acid issue. Okay. And the interesting thing about it is, if you don't produce enough hydrochloric acid, the food starts to ferment in your stomach and opens up the esophageal sphincter, and then some of the HCl they are producing splashes up. So those conditions are not because of too little acid, or too much acid, it's because of too little. And if you're on a proton pump, if you're on that, chances are it's going to exacerbate the condition long term, not to mention the important role that HCl plays in immune system and changing the pH to activate and deactivate various enzymes inside the body, wipe out pathogens. It's a huge factor. And if you're 40 years old, most people aren't producing the same amount of hydrochloric acid they're getting. That's why you could eat whatever you wanted when you were a kid and you can't now. Probably that's it. Right. So next one is bloating and gas. So bloating and gas oftentimes can be a little bit more complicated because it could be a variety of conditions that are contributing. For the most part, the number one thing that causes inflammation inside the body is undigested proteins. And those proteins then become the food for quote unquote bad bacteria, which produce all these neurotoxins and gases and things like that. And so if you're experiencing bloating, after meals or the next day after meals, chances are you're not breaking down your food correctly. Humans are the only species on the planet that eats an enzyme deficient diet. So if I'm a tiger and I kill a zebra, I go and eat the entrails and where all the enzymes and probiotics are, and then I eat the carcass. If I'm a horse, I eat fresh grass and I eat that. So all animals eat food in a live, enzymatically rich state, because if you cook food, you kill all the enzymes, anything over 114 degrees. Yeah. So the reality is we've been feeding ourselves an enzymatically deficient diet massively. And we're also ingesting herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides on our food, which interrupt the enzymatic activity of bugs, and that's how it kills them. Because enzymes are the difference between the living and the dead. So the difference between stones and plants or people is the amount of enzymes. Enzymes are responsible for everything from thinking to blinking, 25,000 different chemical responses. And it's not just about the calories we get from something, it's about the life force, the enzymatic ability, the bridge between the living and dead that we consume. And that's the normal state. But we don't do that as humans anymore. We don't eat fresh foods. Even the food we get at the grocery store has been irradiated, the enzymes have been killed, so it preserves, because enzymes are what's possible for breaking it down. And so what happens is if you're feeling tired after your meals, right? You eat a big meal and you get the turkey dinner syndrome, like you're, oh God, I got to run for the couch and pass out, or feel late or lethargic and stuff. The chances are your body is producing its own enzymes to break that down, and it's taking enzymes from all these other processes in your body. So metabolically, it's very expensive to produce enzymes. And so that's usually a good clue. And a lot of people, when they get on a really high grade, and they should focus on proteolytic enzymes. There's other enzymes. Amylase is the one that does carbohydrates. Lipase is for fats. Those are the big three. And there's various fields within those ranges. And then there's assortment. Like we have 15 different enzymes in our probiotic. But we do focus on protease in particular because that's where the most amount of inflammation causes, inflammatory proteins inside the body. So that's what I would say for that one. Well, the C part is usually diarrhea and constipation.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And so ABC, right? We deal with, right? And so generally, when you're dealing with those kind of conditions, you've got something going off incorrectly inside the intestinal tract. So just to give people an idea of what happens, you start chewing your food, the food goes down the esophagus and into the upper cardiac portion of the stomach. The enzymes present in the food starts to break it down. Hydrochloric acid comes in 30 to 60 minutes later and starts changing the pH, and some enzymes become active, some become reactive. If there's no enzymes in the food, now your body has to manufacture it and it doesn't get to that. So you have undigested food going in. HCl is released. If your body's not producing enough HCl, then microorganisms, parasites, and you might not fully break that down. And then it goes out of the intestinal tract. Minerals buffer that so you don't get gastritis and ulcers and stuff. If you don't have enough minerals in the body, that starts to happen. And then it goes into the intestinal tract. And this is where the probiotics, the good bacteria, are going to work. So 10, 80, 10. 10% good, 10% bad, 80% opportunists. Now, if you're having constipation or diarrhea, chances are that 10, 80, 10 isn't right for you. You've got an overgrowth of some bacteria. You don't have enough other ones. You may have some, if this goes on for a long period of time, you may have some physiological issues. Oftentimes there'll be blockages in the colon somewhere where you've got buildup of mucoid plaque. And so in diarrhea and constipation oftentimes are the same, because with diarrhea, there's just a small, a tiny hole that's left to push stuff through because you've got a blockage. And in the other area is if you're constipated, it's oftentimes because you're not getting the proper peristaltic contraction because you're in a state of inflammation. You're going into, your parasympathetic nervous system, switch your vagus nerve. Certainly now that the bacteria are angry and they're fighting and you're not getting the contractions that you're supposed to move things along. So generally that's a flora issue. And oftentimes you have to do all three in order to correct the whole problem, because if you correct one end, you can exacerbate another challenge. And this is where if you're having that seriously, I do recommend you get a professional inside to start doing some tests and find out what's going on. You probably have to do some sort of restrictive diet for a period of time to kind of get out the contaminants or the inflammatory agents that are causing problems. And you're going to have to supplement with some of these issues like really good probiotics. And I would suggest doing all three enzymes, HCl and probiotics. And the reason why is, I mean, now it's 50,000 people we've served. And the people who kind of go for the all-encompassing program tend to produce the best results. We do get the independence, but generally that's the case.